How do you spell that? There are so many words in the English language that can confuse us. It's so challenging as we're growing up here, going to school, learning how to use correct grammar, how to spell things. It, first, and it's, all the different spelling of it's, the spelling of the word there, T-H-E-I-R, T-H-E-R-E, T-H-E-Y, apostrophe R-E. Don't fall asleep yet. All of these words can be confusing. So how can we make it simple for ourselves? And especially for the non-native speaker, it's very challenging. In this video, I'll share with you 3 words that are commonly misspelled or sometimes, well, that's what it is, the most commonly misspelled, even though we know what we're saying. So I want to make sure you know how to spell these words each and every time and never forget what they are. We'll make it very simple. It's a little secret to each of these words, make it much simpler for you. Let's get started. The first word is principle. So we all have principles. In other words, we have beliefs, guiding ideas. Principle. P-L-E. So, please, I need to have my principles. You think of P-L-E being principle. Now, the great way to remember the word of the person who is in charge of a school is that, and we learned this when we were kids, the principal is your pal. P-A-L, your pal. Principal is your pal. Now, they're pronounced exactly the same, aren't they? Principal. It's only when we see them written that we would know the difference, and by context. So as you're writing a letter, an email, and remember the way that you write an email, the mistakes that are inside of those emails, or hopefully the lack thereof, indicate something about your education, about your knowledge. So trying to make sure that you spell the words correctly. And if you ever do have questions when you're writing an email, just look up the word. Just be careful so you really do spell things correctly, because words and the way that they're spelled mean something in terms of the way that the listener or the reader interprets the writer's intentions or the writer's background. Next is, when we're standing still, we are stationary. You might ride stationary. You might ride a stationary bike, or you might have to remain stationary, that is without moving, for 30 seconds while the doctor takes this test, let's say. Now, the other word that means something very different is what you write on, and that is stationary, pronounced the exact same way, and that is E-R-Y. So the way to remember this is stationary with an E. The E is the same word that you would use in the word letter, L-E-T-T-E-R, letters. A letter you would write. So when you use stationary to write a letter, you are spelling it with an E. And finally, and this is one that ever since I was in Latin as a kid has kind of driven me crazy because my teacher was so specific about this. And you'll see this oftentimes when you go out to eat, and people will offer on the menu a complimentary glass of wine, let's say, with this meal, something along those effects, or a complimentary dessert that they might misspell. It might use the wrong word, the wrong spelling for the word that they intend. So we have a compliment. And compliment means to give somebody nice words, a blandishment, let's say. Compliment is to thank somebody, or to give them something positive, to say something positive about them. Think about the I in compliment as I like to say nice things to people. I like to give compliments. Now, the word that it can be confused with in terms of spelling is complement. Complement. And think of complement as to complete. So putting on this jacket hopefully complements the shirt that I'm wearing. Or perhaps if I were to put on a hat, it would be a nice compliment to what I'm wearing. Now, that could be confusing because you say, well, it's a compliment. It's saying, this is even better to what it was. But really, we're saying it completes what I'm wearing or what you're wearing or what this other person is wearing. It completes it. So think of the E being to complete and the compliment as I like to say nice things about people. Compliment, compliment. Again, pronounced the same way. Complimentary, that would be something that's free. Anything that's given to you complimentary is free. And complimentary would be a different use because it would be about completing. It's complimentary. It is completing this, whatever that is you're describing. So we have 3 words, oftentimes misspelled. Make sure you remember this. Principal is your pal. Stationary is with a letter, L-E-T-T-E-R. Compliment is probably a word you're going to use a little bit less, and it means that it is to complete something. If you remember those rules, you'll never go wrong again when you're using these words. It's a learning process, but the better you are at spelling, at grammar, the more seriously and the more professionally people are going to take you. I'm Patrick Munoz. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel.